everyone. I love talking about everybody else but me on my show. I love that, and I also love the information that people get by listening to this show. Maybe it's you or someone that you know, you can tell them a little bit about it. That's what networking is all about. We're live on Facebook, so hi to everybody out there. Like us and follow us. We will share the show later on. My first guest is Anna Van Straussenburg, and she is the owner of Anna Van Straussenburg CPA. She's also one of my sponsors. Thank you for supporting me, the show, and being on as long as you have. We just figured out it's about 3.5 years that you've been coming on this show. Thank you so much for being here. And I want you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself, but also what you mean by your tagline, which is excellence and integrity in accounting.
Hi, Carol. Thank you for having me on the show. Well, first of all, I guess let's answer that question. I just really believe in being ethical, and I stand by my work. So we do our utmost best to be excellent in what we do. And even if I have to take a little more time, I think it's worth it. And I've been in accounting. I started in the accounting field not as an accountant, but as a receptionist back in 1990.
Wow.
And at the suggestion of my former husband, and I go into business because I like to do our family budget on a spreadsheet. That's the kind of nerd that I am.
Yeah, and you are proud of that, actually.
Yeah, and I decided to go back to school and become a CPA. And so, because I was originally going to become a teacher, and I worked at a school for a while, and I decided that really wasn't for me. And so I went back to school and studied accounting. So I kind of call myself a backdoor CPA because my original degree is in liberal studies, and which was fine for teaching but not for accounting.
What I do love, though, is the way that you got into owning your business, because I know that you worked for somebody at the time, but how many people have an employer that comes up to the employee and says, you're so good at what you do, I would actually like you to buy the business. That's pretty amazing.
Yes, I worked for Jack for about, I think it was about 17 years. And because I started in 2002, and he had a son that's a CPA, but his son didn't want to take over the business. In fact, he works for me part-time on occasion because he doesn't really like to be a full-time accountant. He's much better handling packages for UPS.
Well, you know what, though? Here's the thing, though. What that shows right there, that shows how you keep everybody as friends.
Yeah.
Keep everybody, they become family. Everybody that you work with, your clients, they literally become family.
Oh, yeah. My former boss used to tease me. He goes, you don't just get to know your clients, you adopt them.
Oh gosh, that is so true. And when she says that she's all about excellence and integrity in accounting, you can account for that, because she is all about that. Today you said that you wanted to talk a little bit about identity theft and also damages on your tax return. I want you to tell everybody, first of all, a little bit about what you mean by identity theft right now. What would you want to talk about?
Well, it's a big issue, and it's happening a lot, and it gets caught by the IRS a lot, because right now there's a mandate that all professionals have to e-file their tax returns, and even people doing their own are e-filing their tax returns. Well, if somebody has filed a fraudulent tax return before you have, your tax return's going to bounce, and you'll get a notice back. Usually I get one on my software that says, this tax return was rejected, and then it'll say duplicate return filed. And so then we'll have to look into it and then discover, somebody's stolen their identity. And then there's reporting. You have to do reporting for the IRS. There's a affidavit that you have to fill out, and it's complicated. You gotta, give them a copy of your ID, because now you have to prove you are you.
Let me tell you, and we've talked about people doing their own taxes before, trying to get, and you've always said to them what?
Well, you don't know what you don't know.
And now, you just heard something here on Networking Arizona. As far as I'm concerned, nobody should ever try and do their taxes on their own, because now you're looking at trouble, because you
Yeah.
don't even know what to do.
Yeah, and the thing is with an accounting firm, we are required by the IRS and by our professional liability cover or insurance and everything, we're required to have a lot of safeguards in place. I have to have double logins on everything, you know, where they send me a code to my cell phone, etc. You know, we have to have extra tight security, where some doing it at their home, they may not have that super tight security, and you know, they may not realize that somebody else is hacking into their system.
That
and
could be
getting there.
terrible.
And then there's other ways people can have their identity stolen. And the thing is, when somebody does their own and they get some kind of notice, they may not really understand what it means. And we're well versed in that. We know what it means. We had a client who had their identity stolen. They're pretty sure it was actually from a bank employee that had in the meantime been fired. You know, when you have to apply for a mortgage, you have to give them everything, copies of your tax returns, your social security number, your birthday, and all that stuff. And so, unfortunately, that client had their identity stolen, and a fraudulent tax return was filed, and
then that goes on your record too, right? Would that be like, what do they do?
well, what they do is now that client that had their identity stolen, they were able to clear it up with the IRS. They actually even got a copy of the fraudulent tax return.
Wow.
And we realized that it had to have been somebody who knew them well enough to know that she got wages in the millions.
Wow.
And her withholding was probably at that time probably over 300,000. So that like you know, if they were going to steal somebody's identity, they really stole a good one.
That's really terrible that that's
Unfortunately.
happening.
And then now that person has to have a special identity theft PIN.
And now everybody else does too. And
Yeah.
that's something that, you know, when one bad apple, right,
Yeah.
spoils everything for everybody else. And this is something that I love when you come on, because you always check your email for all of the different, when you get the letters from the IRS and they're telling you what's going on. And that's what you are so factual, and you want to make sure that everybody knows exactly you know, what you're talking about, and you get it right straight from the horse's mouth. Her phone number to call, it's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. She does free consultations. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau. She works nationwide. You can check her out on her website. It's Arizona CPAs with an S.com. We're going to go to a break real quickly, but what do you want to finish off with the with the theft, which is probably don't do your own taxes?
Well, one thing is to be very cautious. If you get a letter in the mail and you're not sure, find the address of the agency that's sending you a letter. If you get an email, don't reply to the email. Go on the internet and find the real phone number, find the real email address. The IRS will never send you an email, so it's not them. They won't call you generally, unless you're a tax fraudster. They won't be calling you.
So, tell you something, if you get something in the mail, open it, and also give Anna a call. Her phone number again, it's 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. Hang tight, we're going to be back in just a minute. We're still live.
Yeah, okay. No, it's just there's so much of it out there, and I had a friend that got something it wasn't from the Small Business Administration, but it was some other company. So that was suspicious there, and that company is known to be fraudulent. But her CPA did some research and found out that, oops, somebody has applied for an SBA loan.
Is that why they have those pins? Because I know Lissa got one.
Yeah, the identity theft pin is, you can get one voluntarily, but if you have had identity theft, they make you get one. And you cannot e-file the return without it.
Right.
It'll bounce every time. Unfortunately, my client that had the identity theft, the husband gets it every year, the wife has never received hers, and it keeps rejecting the tax return, and they've tried to go on and get it, so we just paper file their
Wow.
return, and we just put an explanation with it, that the client chooses to paper file the return, because he said, I'm just so frustrated, I'm trying to go online and get it.
When
So-
we come back, do you want to possibly talk about how, when you do people's, returns, how you find the money every single time?
Yeah, we can talk to that,
Real
yeah.
quickly?
Well, when I redo somebody's returns, yeah, yeah.
Redo, I meant
Yeah.
redo, okay?
Yeah.
And then, and then we'll go into the
Yeah.
damages,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have to say, I finally met my match, somebody I didn't find money, in fact, they had not reported a lot of stuff, but I'll probably
Then
be
that's not your
able
fault,
to
though.
get her to waive, well, when they did their own return.
Ah.
But they have penalties now, and the IRS caught them,
So you see,
so I would have done the
That's a
return
great
correctly, and they
story.
wouldn't have had penalties, so,
exactly.
yeah, and so.
So you see the difference right there? That was 15, now we're gonna do that one more time.
It goes fast.
Real fast,
Yeah.
real fast.
Mhm. Are you doing 30 minutes? Oh, good.
Yeah,
That-
she
that's
wasn't, but
smart.
then we
Oh,
had.
yeah. Can you hear us? I
Hmm?
was gonna ask if I was close enough to, if I've been close
You're
enough to
okay,
my, okay.
yeah, he would tell me, he's
He would
not.
tell you, okay. This isn't the same guy that was here last time I was, is it?
We have a couple of new people,
Oh,
because
okay.
remember Stephen?
Yeah.
He's not here right now anymore, he left to go on to greener pastures. Remember the guy Stephen that you used to know here? He was here forever, Stephen?
There was a Josh too. or
That's
was-
different,
Different,
guy.
yeah, oh, okay.
Stephen was the one with the dark hair, very short hair.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he was, he's doing something else now, that's all.
Okay.
So welcome back, everyone. We're talking taxes on a Friday. And you know what though? What a great time to actually be talking about it, because it's hot out there and you're gonna be in your homes anyway. Why don't you get ready? Because tax season is really all year round, really honestly, especially if you own your own business. I wanna talk a little bit about something that we were talking to Facebook land out there during the break. And that is that, you know, a lot of people that do their own taxes, they really shouldn't be, and you've talked a lot about having the people that have come to you afterwards and show them their tax returns, and what happens 99.99999% of the time.
Well, most of the time when people have asked me for a second opinion prior to filing their return, I have found them money because they didn't realize maybe, I have one friend, his wife did some accounting and bookkeeping work. She drafted up the tax return, and she didn't realize that you were not only could, but are supposed to depreciate rental property, which gave them a big deduction. Once I picked up all the rental expenses that they hadn't put on their tax return, wow, that changed the return a lot. I had somebody else who had employee stock options, and he didn't have the right basis, and boom, I saved him a lot of money. And so, yeah, most of the time I've saved money. And then other times I've just made sure that their return's correct.
And you know what, this means a lot, especially now.
Yeah, and I have a story. I did have somebody who came to me, but this was, unfortunately, they did file and do their own tax return, and there were lots of mistakes. Well, the IRS caught them on some of it. And I realized that when I called the IRS, they said, oh, they're still researching it. And I thought, uh-oh, we better do this amended return correctly, because they are looking through it with a fine-tooth comb.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized the notice didn't even list some of the income that they had, and I'm sure they're gonna catch it, because it was reported to the IRS by the brokerage firm. So they had missed reporting capital gains, they missed reporting some 1099 income, they missed reporting a whole bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so my goal with this client is just to get them to waive the penalties.
Right, and that's the thing about knowing Anna, is because you can call the IRS And you should not do that yourself. Folks, nobody should ever do anything like that themselves because you're so emotionally involved where you're not, and you know how to talk to them.
Yeah, and I usually approach the agents like a human being and really, get them on the client's side. And so I've kind of mastered that skill. In fact, when I worked for my boss, before I bought the firm, I was the designated person to call the IRS or the state of Arizona, or the state of wherever. And because I did such a good job at it, it's funny, because most of the time I actually get a really nice person. One time recently, this is a funny story, I got somebody who, when I started saying, well, would you like this information? And she's like, well, no, I want you to fax this document first. Because normally they get the information, then I fax it. And I thought, oh dear, this is gonna be a difficult person, but I'll just fax the document. Well, wouldn't you know, the fax didn't want to go through quite right. Everything, I get back to my phone after I finally get it to go through, and I was disconnected. And I thought, okay, well, there is a force in the world that is protecting me from bad IRS agents, because when I called back, the next person was so nice.
Isn't that nice? That's so funny.
It worked out.
God was looking out for you.
Yeah.
And for your client, actually. Now, let's talk a little bit about damages and putting those on your tax return.
Well, prior to, I think it was called the Tax Reduction Act, back several years ago, they had what they called miscellaneous deductions that were subject to 2%. And one of those deductions was the casualty and theft loss reporting. And, there were certain limitations, but you could, report a loss like a storm damage, or, your house was broken into and you had a lot of earthquake, and stuff. And it was not a problem. Well, they changed the law, and now that deduction is only limited to federally declared disaster areas. And I think for theft, it has to be a bona fide Ponzi scheme, which means it's gone to court and,
wow.
And it's, so there's very limited deductions on that, because a lot of people will call up and say, hey, I had hail damage to my roof, can I report it? No, it wasn't a federally declared disaster, it was just a microburst in Arizona, which happens, and
So they're getting tighter.
And luckily, most of that's usually covered by homeowners insurance, but.
Right, but they're getting tighter and tighter. It sounds like they're brutal. They can be brutal.
But the reason I brought it up is because I got 2 notices today about various disaster areas that there are tax breaks. So, and the reason I know a lot of them are back east, Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, etc. But people do have vacation homes and rental properties and other places besides Arizona.
Especially here in Arizona.
Yeah.
They have people there living in 2 different states.
Yeah. And so if you're a victim of something like that, it's worth to make a call to somebody like me, a CPA, who can look up the information with the IRS and see what you can declare as a loss if it's happened. And boy, oh boy, this past couple weeks there's been, tornadoes and all kinds of things.
There's always something, but you know what, that's
earthquakes.
what I love about Anna. That's
Yeah.
right, I lost my house in the Northridge earthquake, so I know what that's like. And I wouldn't have known that unless I called Anna. So her phone number is 480-964-4030, that's 480-964-4030. She does free consultations. She works nationwide. She's rated with the Better Business Bureau. She's all about excellence and integrity in accounting. Her website is ArizonaCPAs.com. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to also say for my business clients, and that's a lot of my clients also own businesses. Some of them are S corps, some of them are partnerships. And one of the things I like to do with my business clients is take a look at their books through mid-year, which is coming up soon. So in July, I look at their books all the way through June 30th, and we get a feel for where they are, and maybe can do some preliminary tax planning, or at least make some corrections to how they're recording their transactions in their books.
Right.
And then the really important time is in November. I like to see what has happened all the way through the end of October. And usually by the time I get the books, we look at them, November is mostly over, so we get an idea where that is. And so we try to target what the person is going to owe, and then that gives us an opportunity to do some planning.
Right, and here's the thing also with Anna, you're all about people understanding their numbers. You help them, they're all good on QuickBooks, right?
Most of them, yeah, I would say 99% of my clients are in business on QuickBooks. The ones who aren't, I'm trying to get them on there.
Right,
So.
right, and you help them with that,
Yeah.
you teach them that. And the other thing is that she wants you to understand your business, because when you know your numbers, you can grow your business, and you've done that as well for people.
Oh, yeah, I one of my favorite stories is a client who came to me. Their business was relatively new, and they were losing money, and one of the things was a problem is that their inventory was incorrect in their QuickBooks, and we helped them correct it. And then lo and behold, a few years in, the owner came to me and I said, you know, you can start making money now. And he says, well, guess what, I did. And that client went from losing money to making over $1 million a year.
This is why you want to call Anna.
Yep.
Her phone number is 480-964-4030. That's 480-964-4030. Check her out on her website. It's ArizonaCPAs.com. What are some of your final words?
Well, you know, it's really important. There's professionals in the world that are here to help you. And, you know, you may be good at what you do, but you're probably not that great at accounting if you're not an accountant. You know, you may be great at fixing cars, but, you know, you may not be great at doing your tax return. And you know what? I know a little bit about working on cars, but I hire a professional when I have to have my car fixed, so.
And I've said it before, and I'm gonna say it
Yeah.
again now. Hey, listen, guys, she did my daughter's tax return, who this year, literally, she was like, oh, I'm gonna just do it. I said, you know what, you just wanna make sure, you might wanna just make sure with Anna, and guess what? You got her so much money back, or she was gonna get a have to pay, and you saved her so much money. She was so grateful.
Yep, she went from having to pay a big amount to just a small amount.
She was so thrilled. Believe me, when you're younger too,
yeah.
everybody is. Nobody wants to pay the IRS
I
if you
know.
don't have to. And that's why you call Anna again. That phone number, it's 480-964-4030. It's 480-964-4030. It's ArizonaCPAs.com.